I'm Liz Vaughn.
I'm Kenny Vaughn,
We own Vaughanscapes.
and we are hardscapers.
Okay, Kenny and Elizabeth, can you two give us a little bit of an introduction about the two of you? How you guys got started in this industry, where your journey kind of took you until you started your business here?
So really, I guess this part of the business the very first part of the hardscape business got started with me. I was doing bank foreclosed properties. I was doing flips, traveling basically all over the state with another construction company. I was running basically really one crew for the most part, but I was never home. I was gone 5-6 days a week and only home, 1.5 days a week. We were getting married. So I was trying to find a base closer to home. Two of my close friends owned a hardscape company, and they were looking for employees. So we sat down and talked, and they brought me on. They ended up closing down a division of they closed down a division of their company. And he's like, dude, you're really good at what you do. If you want to start your own business, we'll mentor you and help teach you the things you don't know about estimating and stuff. And really just was from there, it was a takeoff for my portion. And then she came in and started helping really bring the company to what it is now. Before, it was just me really getting the ground started, building the relationships with the customers, building the relationships with the vendors. I'm terrible at spelling. I can build anything under the sun. It doesn't matter what it is, but I would literally be with crayons and paint most of the time, making my designs, my drawings. And she would come in and make all my language make sense and put it all into perspective. And then once we had our son, or were pregnant with our son, is when she really stepped in and just transformed it. And I mean, from your perspective, like, you can go into where you stepped in with that, because there's a whole nother view when you came in.
I went to Ohio State for construction management. So I worked for a commercial contractor for quite some time before I met Kenny, or before we started dating. So when he, proposed the idea of like starting this company, I wasn't sure about landscaping, to be honest. And I eventually came around to the idea. So he would be working during the day, I would be working my full-time job, and then I would come home at night and type up his proposals and his estimates, and like kind of, tone in the designs, kind of make them look more professional. And I was fluent in, Microsoft Word and Excel and all that stuff. So it was kind of helpful for him, because he's working so much in the field, that I could kind of manage some of the paperwork, office stuff in my free time. And then the workload started to become a lot, to where we kind of had to make a decision, like, is this going to be a side gig, or is this going to be something that I fully want to also commit to with him? So we did that for about 16 months while I was working at that job. And then we got pregnant with our first child. And then at that time, I decided, okay, now's the time. I want to quit my job, come on full time, and really focus on growing this thing. So that's kind of how I got into it. But Kenny was the vision at first, and got me on board. And then it's just been awesome since then.
So. And the hours definitely was a kick in the butt for her to jump in and help, because I was doing 16, 18 hours a day in the field, doing my estimates, meeting my customers at night, getting home, doing my designs throughout the entire night, getting about 3 hours, maybe 4 hours of sleep, writing the estimates up in the morning. She would step back in with the extra time she had and kind of flip it all around in a couple of hours and send it out. So we didn't have any time together. And she's like, we can't do this once we have kids. So.
Like, no joke, our designs when we first started were in colored pencil. And I looked at this and I was like, we need to do something about this. I was like, we need to change this. So that's when we kind of got into our design rendering software and stuff, but it was pretty funny thinking back on that.
Awesome. So great context here. So let's get into the nitty gritty here. And what did that Kenny, I guess this is for you. What did that hardscaping business look like when you first started it? Like, what were you getting into in terms of your building? Did you have a niche in the market that you were looking for to build these things? Or was this just all steam ahead, go whatever you can pick up
It was basically all steam ahead. I was doing anything and everything. I mean, there was times I would pick up 3, 4, 5 projects all in the same neighborhood, and I would just go from one house across the board doing demos, back across the board. I mean, I was doing everything I could. I was taking at that point anything that would make money. And it even got to a point where I was cutting my own budget and cutting things to make things fit for people. And once she was in and I was still doing it, it became a rat race, and I started losing my desire, my passion for it for about a year or two. And that's when we kind of found our niche. We realized that we had this niche with our customers. People came to us because of what we gave to them, not the quality, the relationship, and the product that was turning over that most people wouldn't cater to. Can't say most because there's a lot of great contractors out there, but we just had something unique. And then so we just catered to more of a custom design build. We're like, we're going to move it over. We're going to focus on custom design build, and we're not going to turn away the other people, but we're going to develop a little bit of a network in our local community in the region we're in. And we're just going to have the ability to give it to guys that are like we were, that are hungry, that are trying to grow and come up and that still do a little bit of different things that aren't in the niche that we do. So that's kind of how we've landed a little bit to where we are now, honestly.
And I feel like the working in the same neighborhood, there's this one condo community in the beginning that we literally did like 24 houses.
37.
Was it? I thought it was 24. It was a lot of jobs in that one neighborhood. And it was basically, Beacon Hill, like varying colors, like pretty much same patio throughout the entire community. And I just got bored of doing the same thing over and over again. And I was like, I want to be creative and use my design brain and like really think through how we can do some cool stuff. And I think that's when we started to really like try to think outside the box and do different materials, more high-end stuff, and starting to get those jobs where the clients gave us the opportunity to be creative and use a little bit more of a budget and start to do these things that were more expensive. And that's kind of how it like spiraled into now we do, luxury living. We found our niche, we do high-end patios, larger homes, clients that have more opportunity for us to think outside the box and do crazy things where before we didn't have that. So that's where it's really been fun for me from a design standpoint.
Can't take away from those projects that we did back then to an extent. Yeah, we did have to like really try hard to make each patio be a little different than the other. Yeah. And my brain runs too much sometimes to my own fault, that I would be sitting there playing with stones, creating unique things. And that's kind of where people that couldn't have unique stuff would talk to their family or their friend and be like, these guys really can do something special if you give them the chance. And that's kind of how the outward brand just really started to build out, because we've really come up with some unique designs and patterns and building like seat walls out of tapered material that sits backwards that nobody else has really been able to do, kind of like we have. So it's been fun. I mean, it really has.
Or like a client told us, she's like, I want built-in benches, I want built-in planters, I want an outdoor shower, and I want a fence. And I want it to all be in the same unit, like same thing. And so I was like, whoa, this is going to be fun. So we went through like a million iterations of this. I just actually posted it on Instagram today, of this like planter bench outdoor shower thing. And it turned out amazing. And I love when clients let us do stuff like that. It's so fun.
So Elizabeth, when you started to come into this business, even when you were, working full time and coming home and doing more, how did you see from your eyes the business start to change? Like what did that feel like for you, and being able to put your touch on the business? Because I mean, having two minds and I'm sure two very different minds is very beneficial to any business.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's like a husband and wife, and like, he's in the field and I'm designing, and then we have that designer contractor, butting heads, and we're both, bulls. And so we're like, it's my way, and but it's been really cool to ebb and flow with each other and figure out our strengths and, where he excels and where I excel, and kind of just get into that groove. And I think it took us many years to figure that out. So I feel like that's when our business changed, to be honest, is like when we had more of a mission, and we were able to achieve it together by communicating better and really working on our strengths. So like before, like he said, we were just doing whatever job came our way, and we really had to hone in on what's our purpose in life. Like, why are we doing this? And why are we passionate about it? And so that's really where we've developed our mission, and that's what makes our brand. And we are so obsessed with this industry, and we literally, like, I can't wait to get up and like work, because I love my job so much. And I know he does, and it's stressful, but
it does get stressful. But really finding our mission, finding why we really wanted to do it, not just for ourselves, but why do we want to cater to building a luxury item for someone else? You know, obviously these aren't items that is like a roof or a plumbing that has to be taken care of. These are something that you want because you want to go out and enjoy it, and you're buying it as an extra, you know, it's not a necessity. So we had to come up with like, why? Let's sit down and talk. What's your reason for it? What's my reason for it? And, you know, we've got this whole mission statement that we've actually written up as part of our company. And that's what we talk to all of our employees, go through it. We want them to understand it. And that's what's really opened the doors up to us understanding why we want this to grow the way we do, and why our passion is really there. And it's excelled the brand in a lot of ways, honestly.
Because honestly, outdoor living makes your life so much better. It, like, we built our patio, of course, and we're out there all the time. And like, even when it snows, we're in the hot tub last night. So I'm like, it's just a part of your life that maybe you don't realize is missing until you have it. So having these things, although they may be luxury items like pools, hot tubs, pavilions, pergolas, whatever, it really creates a community of your family, your friends, getting together, spending that time that you need, and getting a break. So I feel like it's just really become so important to us, this mission, and just giving people these amazing spaces.
So set the stage for us for these next few questions here. What exactly do the two of you do in the business? Like, do you have exact splits in terms of, you know what, you handle this, you handle this? What does that look like in your business?
So in the business, I take care of everything basically outside of the office, right? That's what you would say. So everything in the construction form, from laying out the products, working with customers throughout the start to finish of the process, controlling the guys, controlling the materials, machine rentals, all of that stuff. Sometimes I'll work with payments with my suppliers, but sometimes that's the office. That's one of the overlaps.
Yeah, the overlap. Yeah.
That's where we're going to try to bring in someone to kind of do more office management, so I can focus all construction. She can focus all other stuff, and we can have someone kind of in that in-between space. But I take care of everything after design from build to finish.
So yeah, I'm like the front end person, and he's the back end person. So like, I manage all the leads, and then I set up all the estimates. That's another overlap. Sometimes I go to estimates, sometimes he goes to estimates. And then I manage all the design, all the estimating, getting the project ready for the field, like all the contract process and all that. And then I kind of hand the baton off to him when the job is beginning, or a pre-construction meeting, and then he takes over. But I do, you know, project management, scheduling, change orders, time clock, payroll. I do all the office stuff and all the designs. I have a designer that works for me as well. And then we just hired a second one. So I'm more oversight at this moment, just making sure that the vision is communicated, and then, you know, they're doing all the legwork, and then kind of tweaking it on the end of the design, making sure it fits our brand and what I want, and materials and how it looks. And then that's when we send it to the client. So he's been a lifesaver, because he saved me, you know, hundreds of hours of renderings, which I used to just do all by myself. So it's been terrific. But yeah, I think, like Kenny said, we're going to hire an office manager to kind of alleviate some of the admin work from me, because my best strengths are used with design and quality control and a little bit of project management. So that's where I'm going to stick. And then I need other people to do the mundane, like, paperwork stuff that I do not have time for.
That's one of the things both of us, as a growing company, most contractors out there, we carry all the hats in the very beginning. You know, we carry all the hats, and then we're to a point where you can't keep carrying all the hats, and we're still really carrying all the hats instead of just hiring people to fill those spots. We're just growing astronomically, and then in the process of that, we're still carrying all the weight. So we just got to start doing what needs to be done, and, you know, give some of that away. And it's just doing it. It's one of the hardest parts.
It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. I didn't realize how much of a control freak I was when it came to that until recently. I'm like, it could be easy.
Yeah.
Just hand it over.
that's something we talk about a lot with our guests. It's so hard for an entrepreneurial mindset to give up that control. That you want it all on you, and that's the pain of growing. And I like, Elizabeth, you talked about hiring for your weaknesses or the things that you don't want to do in your business, right? But having said that, with the two of you, what is it like owning and operating a business as a married couple? Because that can be difficult, I'm sure.
Yes. Oh my God.
And I'm sure the line, between business and work, it gets blurred sometimes. I'll just make that assumption. But what is it like for the two of you, and difficulties, advantages to it? Can you get into that a little bit for us?
So I'll be 100% transparent. There was a point in time where we didn't know if we were going to get a divorce or not because of the business.
Oh, the business has made us question divorce multiple times.
But once we got past the weaknesses and we got past our egos in the business and started realizing that we're a power couple, to be 100% honest, not to be arrogant in any way, but to be together and to have the strengths that we both have coming from the complete opposite fields and different spectrums and different knowledges. Once we realized that and we came together, honestly, we couldn't be stronger as a marriage now. I think the goal for any couples out there doing this, don't be afraid to do it, but be strong enough to be able to look inside at your own problems and to see that the only issue that you can have is not being open and communicating. You got to be open. You got to be round. There's never, I'm better, you're better. I've done this longer. I've been to school for this. It's never that. You're together, you can do everything. You really can.
Yeah, it really all came down mostly to communicating. Like, for instance, I would, they would build something a certain way that was not my vision or whatever. And I would be like, this is not how it needs to be done. It needs to be done like this. And then he would get upset because it takes way more time and money to do it that way. But, we have a brand, we have a standard we need to uphold. And so we would often get in fights about these things, where I want it done this way, he wants it done this way. And so I think it was important for me to put myself in his shoes, him to put himself in my shoes, and us to really compromise. Like, is this worth A, spending this much more money to do it this way? Or B, is there some sort of tweak we can do to like find a middle ground?
Or C, ask the question before you bid it to make sure the bid matches the extra work for it. That was one of the other parts that we got into, where as a never being in the field, but being in the construction in school, she knew how everything's supposed to be built. But we all know in the industry, books building and field building is never, very rarely.
In field building too.
I know, but never really is it 100% the same. It doesn't always work out that way. So there was a lot of times it would be like, hey, this is how it's going to go down. It's like, well, in the field, this has not been working that way lately. We got to add this extra stuff. So it's just being able to ask the questions, answer the questions, find a middle ground. Never be like, no, it doesn't fucking work, or no, it's not going to happen,
But to answer your question, business never turns off. Like, we go to work, we come home from work, and then we talk about work. When we go on dates, we talk about work.
Yeah.
When we lay in bed, we check our messages from our contractor groups and we talk about work.
Talk about what's coming up tomorrow. Hey, I thought about this. Do you think this would work for the project? Hey, do you guys think you can do this tomorrow? Add it in for the customer. I think they'd really enjoy it. There's
one time I remember we tried to go on a date and we're like, okay, we're not going to talk about anything work related. And I think it lasted about 10 minutes. Because, our life and our work and our family and everything is so intertwined that it's very hard to like shut it off. Mm-hmm. So, I don't hate it. I love my job, and like our marriage is great and our family's amazing. So I think that it's working for now. And I think that we're in the season of our lives where we're just grinding to get to where we want to be. And I think, in a few years, maybe we'll be able to settle down a little bit and have some more downtime and, experience the more relaxed lifestyle. But right now it's just go, hustle.
Having two entrepreneurs in the same mindset of, all of us are out there always like, I just need some downtime to relax. And once we get to this point, I'll be able to just take some time to myself. And then what we've been doing is we find that comfort and we're like, all right, we're hitting it. Everything's moving smoothly. Let's start a pool company.
Let's start another company. What else can we do?
Let's become a general contractor now.
Yeah.
We should just do that. So now we're 3 businesses in. And then we keep saying it now, we're just going to start slowing down at some point. We're just going to let the business expand and we're going to have the people in place. But we all know at some point there'll be another version. That's why we came up with the brand Vaughn & Co. because, no matter what, as we go through with our customers, because that's kind of how it came to light for the general contracting portion. Hey, we love what you guys do outside. Would you be willing to remodel our kitchen? Would you be willing to do the basement? Mm-hmm. It's like, well, I can do it, but it's not a company of mine. So I'd kind of be doing it under the company that's not.
So just to explain it, like to make more sense, Vaughanscapes was like the leader, right? And then we really started working on all these pool jobs and we noticed a need for pools. And so we were really interested in it and started a pool company. So we've been doing pools for a while now. And then with the interior stuff, I've always loved design. We built our own house. We've renovated all our previous homes. And so it was kind of like a hobby. And so we're like, we want to start an interior design business. So we started a third business. So that's Vaughn & Co. is like the umbrella of those three design build companies together. And so we do, the hardscaping, the pools, and the interior design all together.
So she says umbrella though, it's a brand, not a company.
Right.
There's no affiliations to them all. It's just a good way for a customer to be like, Vaughn & Co. did the work for us rather than Vaughanscapes did my outside. It just gets confusing.
Yeah, we have a YouTube channel, which is Vaughn & Co. So it kind of, worked well.
Gotcha. So yeah, with that, I mean, as an entrepreneur, you're always, looking to that next thing. Like when is that time that you're going to get to where it is, relaxing because maybe you'll find something else that you want to start. I can definitely empathize with that. But do you two, just asking because I know there are couples out there that listen to this podcast and they are either in business together or one helps the other in business. Do you try to, or are you going to try to set boundaries somewhere in your life? Because I know you guys have kids, at least one kid. I
have two. Yeah.
Two. So, is there boundaries set, or are you guys going to try to set boundaries somewhere, or is it go right now?
It is go. We have somewhat boundaries. So one of us at some point in time through the day around 5 o'clock stops. It just depends on what's going on and where it goes around. One of us makes sure the kids are having fun and does things with them. But we do incorporate the kids with the business too. They like to go out. Maddox, my son, our son, he's 5. He can run almost all the machines. I just put him in my lap and he controls everything. And he loves to get out there and do it. And our daughter, she's 2, almost 3, and she's getting into where she loves to just get out there and do the stuff too. So, for us, it's a family thing. We're looking to build this into something great. So,
but as far as the boundaries, I do think that Kenny will answer his phone at like 11:30 p.m. for a client who's like wanting to complain about whatever happened. I don't know. And I'm like, Kenny, maybe we should set some boundaries. Like after 9 p.m., we don't answer phone calls. And I obviously don't, because I'll call him back or just text him and be like, hey, can I call you tomorrow? But Kenny is still working on that.
Yeah. I mean, a goal is to get at some point with the business to where we've hired the right people because, what they always say, the best employer hires everybody that's smarter than them, that's better at them at everything they do. So the goal is to get those people that are better than us and smartness at these things so that we can just oversee, manage, and run. So we're not physically doing all of the work. I don't know if that's going to be within the next 5 years because of the growth and everything, but that's the goal. That's my 5-year goal, is to get to that. There will still always be the phone calls though, and there will still always be the person to person because we always want to be the face and the backing behind the company. I always want to be there with the customers. We always want to be there for the employees, but I want to make sure a customer can come to us and be like, hey, I'm not sure if this looks right, or could you guys add this? And, still the face-to-face and the meetings also, we're going to always do the estimates and we're always going to be there to close the jobs out, honestly.
Yeah, we kind of made it a point, I think it was maybe like a year ago. We initially had one of our employees doing the estimate walkthroughs. So like the first impression of the company the client would be one of our employees who's amazing.
He's a great employee.
He's amazing and great and does an awesome job. But then we started to realize throughout the project, he does the estimate. They may be talking to us on email or phone, but they're not meeting us. They're not seeing our faces. And so they could potentially go through an entire project and never meet me or, never really get to know him if they're working and they get there, they get home at 6 p.m. and then they don't see Kenny. So we made it a point to either we're showing our faces in the beginning, me and or Kenny. We're going to talk to you, meet with you at the pre-construction meeting. We're going to meet you at your house to do the estimate, and we're going to talk to you through the design. And then at the end, we're going to do the punch out, and we're both going to be there. And so we want to start the project with you, with us, and we want to end the project with you, with us, because we really want to have it feel like a family company, no matter how big we are. Like, I know maybe in the future that's not going to be possible, but for now, we really want to make sure that Jasper's like, I want to be in it. We want to make sure that, we can be present with the clients.
If there's anything I can say that I've seen from that one, Hunter's amazing. He was great at what he did. He still is great at what he does. He's great with the customers. He never dropped a beat. But for some reason, and I don't know what it is, but I could say there was probably a 30, maybe +% difference in closing projects with us on meeting the customer and us not meeting the customer. It was a massive drop just not being there to cater to them and see them. And I don't know if it's my vision and my view or how I communicate. I don't know what it is, because he didn't do anything wrong. I've been there with him on these walks and things. And but there's just a difference. There's a huge difference in the customer seeing and feeling the owner of the company.
Like presence. When you go to a fancy restaurant and the owner comes by and asks you how your meal is, it's like that. It's just you're getting to talk to the vision and the brain behind what you're buying, So I feel like that is important for us. And we just want to make sure that we can be close to our clients, because they're not just someone who's paying us for services. Like, we truly want to get to know them. We want to be their friend. We want to potentially drink wine after the job's done and know them well and be their friends. So I think that's so important, really.
I don't know that there's any customers that we've had, only one customer that we've ever had that we don't still communicate with and talk to. And that's where the referrals come from. That's why I would say 98% referral based company, because I would say we're friends with every customer we have, honestly.
Yeah.
So lots of questions from that. And, coming from those referrals, from the point you started the business, where were those referrals coming? And obviously right now you've got the referrals, but when you decided to turn the business into more of a luxury outdoor living experience, where were you getting those referrals? So when you first started, where were those leads coming from, to the point where you turned the key and you said, we're going, this luxury outdoor living experience, where were those leads coming from?
When we first started, the leads were coming from the work that I was doing with my friends. There was a part of the projects that once they shut down that division, I helped close out those projects. And I was always working with the customers through those. So, things would pop up, they couldn't get to it. Hey, you go ahead and go do it. So the quality and the relationships that I was building with the customers then, and then also the stuff that they were feeding me that they couldn't get to. And then from that small little bunch that we got through, I just developed this community and this relationship with the clients, and then talking to neighbors while doing it, but that neighbor's brother or their friend down the street. And it really grew from that. As far as the custom design stuff,
in the beginning, we used Angie's List.
Oh, Angie's List, yeah,
which has actually transformed. Now that it's free to users, we don't use it, because in the beginning, when you had to pay for it, and at that stage in our business, those jobs were exactly what we wanted.
Right.
And so the leads we were getting were perfect. And then as we started to grow and morph and change, Angie's List also changed to more people that were kicking the tires, not serious, not good jobs, potentially not the best clients either. So
I got a lot of bad referrals from there. It was great, not to cut you off, but it was great. And I did all the meetings back then. She didn't really get to meet all the people. It used to be phenomenal. So I would get the reviews from the people that I did the work for. That's what I should have said, how that worked. So they would give me the reviews on Angie's List. Angie's List would cater to the next. And then it would kind of daisy chain from this guy sending me here, them going to Angie's List, and kind of going from there. And then at some point when they went free, it went to crap. I would get meetings I would show up to. They would never answer the doors. They would never call me back. I would waste so much time. We even did the home advisor. Oh my God, they stole thousands of dollars from us. It was bad. They would say the referral fee, and then I would get a phone call for someone to change a light or let a bat out of an attic, and they would charge me a referral fee. And I'm like, that's not even part of my industry. So we got out of it. We just dropped all of that and went straight to referrals after that.
So then at that point, we got on Facebook first. And then when Instagram became more popular, we got on Instagram. And I feel like what I know, now it's like, a lot of hardscapers are very sophisticated with this. But in the beginning, when you would look at hardscape photos, it was not pretty. It was like, they were just finishing up a job. The pavers are still wet. There's hoses in the background and like tools laying in the grass, and the grass hasn't even grown. And they snap a picture, they post it on their Instagram. That's supposed to be a marketing photo. And I was like, this is not what we're going to do. We need to make sure this looks perfect. Like, we are going to clean it. We're going to furnish it. We're going to edit our photos. We're going to crop them perfectly. We're going to make sure that this is a brand, and this is really, it's a marketing. It's not just, you just take a photo and you're done. This is literally your vision for your company. You should put as much thought into your photography and your marketing and your Instagram as you do into your designs of the job itself.
I agree. At first, I thought she was going crazy. I was like, why are you putting so much into this? And then as we started doing it, you started seeing the scale of work evolve. The photos and the marketing of the photos, it really dramatically changed the type of people that come in. To
answer your luxury question, I think that some of the people started to notice that these photos were very attractive photos, and like the quality of work was shown in those photos. And so I think maybe, there was one client here, and then there was one client who referred us to their friend, who I think that the job on the golf course was maybe that one project that
that was a referral too. So
that got us into that realm, if you will.
Yeah, there was a combination of a couple. It was like a smaller but larger, smaller up but larger, and then a daisy chained up. But they kind of just gave us a little bit of freedom. Hey, I don't know what I want. I just want you to build something. And then she would put her design features into it. And then in the field, they're like, hey, I would like to try something like this and this. And then I would just kind of, if you give me the freedom to just do something, hey, this is the type of material I want, but I don't know what I want to do, I can create some unique stuff just off the fly. So giving us both the ability to be creative opened up a door. And then they were like, well, this guy wants something off the wall crazy. So it's a little bit bigger, quite a bit jump. We go over, we meet with them, just do it. So we just did it. And then
their friends would come over for their party on their patio, and then their friends would call us, and their friends would call us.
It just blew up from that.
And they all were more, in certain areas of our town that were, on the golf course, in a golf community or whatever, where they're willing to spend more money on a pool, pavilion, outdoor living space than some of the previous jobs we were doing. The budgets were smaller. So I feel like that's kind of where we started to get in there and find what we love to do so much and be creative and, do something crazy.
And it's really opened the door in a lot of ways, though, because there's even some neighborhoods we get into that aren't as high end, but they know the people and they've been to these houses, or they've been to, like, one customer we just did. They have 4 friends that all have some pretty high end. Let us be really creative. And we went over, and their yard's not real big. It's a nice place. They're just like, hey, I'm gonna give you a free for all. Just kind of design something. I just know I want a pavilion. And, we got to do concrete tables, a whole large waterfall concrete table, large kitchen, seat walls. And it's a high-end neighborhood, but not as crazy, but the people are just doing it. And they're letting us be creative and just do.
Those are the best clients that are like,
oh, they're amazing.
I know I maybe want like a pool and a patio, and then you just do whatever you want. Just do the design.
Just do it.
And I'm like, oh, okay, this is gonna be fun. So that's really where just thinking outside the box and doing cool, fun designs like that got us into this niche.
Yeah, I love being able to just think, just build me something.
When you're first meeting that customer, what questions are you asking to be able to understand what they're looking for, what you can design for them, or even if it is a customer that says something like that, like just do what you need to do? How do you know what you're going to put into those designs?
One of the first things I try to get out of the way is the uncomfortable budget. Everybody thinks if I give you my budget, you're going to take that and run with it. But in all reality, all you're doing is restricting me or setting yourself up for failure if you don't give it to me.
So like back in the day, we didn't really qualify our customers, and we've just honed in on this in the last year or two where, I think first we're not just wanting any job. We want jobs that align with our brand, and we want clients that are a good fit for us. So we are evaluating you, not the other way around. So I'm going to ask you questions like, what's your address? Can you send me photos of your backyard? What's the scope of work? What items are you wanting? You want a pool, patio? What's the square footage? What kind of materials are you looking at using? And then I always ask, what is your budget? I have to have a budget, because if you say, oh, I don't know, and then I go design a project that costs $250,000 and your budget is like $100,000, then we both just wasted each other's time. So now I have to go back and spend hours and hours and hours revising this design, revising this estimate, when we could have just started from square one and been like, my budget's 100,000, and then I would have tried to design something that would fit that.
So I want to go back on that just for a minute, but all I think she said is absolutely correct. I just want to make sure that people don't get the wrong perspective of that filter. The filter isn't because we only want to do specific areas and specific things. It's more so that we know we're not landing somewhere where you're known to be a bad neighborhood that doesn't stand up to what they're supposed to, or we're with a client that is going to be or known to not pay, or what we want to do is we want to work with people that are wanting to work with us. I don't want to work with someone who is going to constantly go back on themselves. We don't want to work with someone who's going to constantly be contradicting what they said in the beginning and go back on it. So that's part of the verbiage that we've learned over the couple of years
I don't know how that relates to what we're saying.
Well, you were saying like the way you filter it, we're not just filtering it just to only do specific areas because of the money in the area. We'll work in anywhere. It's a matter of the type of people and the type of product.
Oh, no. Yeah. And it doesn't matter the budget. Like if your budget's 20,000, we don't do a lot of jobs that are less than 50,000 at this point in our career. But if your job's 20, 30,000 and it's still like a cool little patio that has some cool design, whatever, and you seem like a cool person, then we could still take your job for sure. But I just feel like it's just important. It doesn't matter if your budget's 20 or 600,000. I just need to know what it is, because the design is really, the budget leads the design. Right. So that's where I need to know where to go.
That's the whole importance of the brand and what our
sorry, our daughter's over there like yelling.
The brand and the reason that we do it. That's the whole purpose in it. It's not just for us, but it's for the customer. They need to fit the whole motto.
So we're huge on that, and pre-qualifying the customer to get to that point that that they're a good fit. But with that budget, that's such a hard question to ask. And then the customer might say something like, well, I don't know how much these things cost.
Okay, so this is what I do in that situation. So first, I'll send them like a list of questions. I do this on email first. So if they had called me or they reached out on our website or on Instagram or whatever, I'll send them an email and I'll ask these questions. And we're actually getting our website redone right now, where on the website we have a form where I'll just send them to our new website and they can answer these questions on our form online. So what's cool is, in the beginning, they'll answer the questions and then they'll have a budget range. So your budget is less than 20,000, from 20 to 50, from 50 to 100, from 100 to 200, 200 plus. And so depending on what they click, depending on the scope items they click, like say they click a pool, but then they click that their budget is $50,000, it will say, we will have someone contact you shortly, because that budget is not realistic for that scope. If their budget is realistic, then that, the scope item in the budget, it will automatically give them our calendar where they can set up a time for a consultation based on their schedule and their timing and stuff. So it's kind of like a real-time scheduler thing as well. So to get back to your question, when they say, well, I don't know how much these things cost, usually what I do is I take their scope items that they gave me. If they said, I want a pool, I want a patio, I want a pavilion, I want landscaping, I want lighting, I look at their house, I look at their property, I figure out how much. I tell them pools range from this to this. Your patio is going to be probably 1,000 square feet-ish. So I'll tell them the range of what that costs. A pavilion can range from this to this. And then kind of give them ranges on each of those items. And usually I like to go a little bit higher than what it potentially could be, because if I'm lower and then we go through the estimate process, they will come back to that email and be like, why isn't it here? And so I like to go a little bit higher than what's normal because I want to check them and see if they're scared by that number. And if they're scared by that number, then that likely means that this project may not be what they're wanting it to be. And so it's good to feel them out, because I'm feeling them out on what's possible, and they're also feeling me out on, okay, these people are serious, they're not messing around, they know what kind of project they want, they know how much it costs, and I'm not going to like haggle them.
Yeah.
So I feel like it works both ways for sure.
Even in that, you got to like, even on the field estimates, sometimes when they'll be talking, we'll go through this and ask, because she pre-qualifies, but the question comes up again. I'm really specific lately about, hey, it can vary in so many directions, but if you want a ballpark, we've done pavilions in the 20,000 range. We've done pavilions in the $40,000 range. Just to give you an idea, it can be between, and there are a lot of varying factors in there, you know. But I always tell them, always at the end, like, I can't say that it will be that, because it could potentially be 60 if you push the limits and push the boundaries. So, because we've had customers like, well, you told me 20.
Yeah.
Like, no. I said it could be. You know, we've had some pretty big step backs with some people that we thought were where we wanted to be. And then they'd be like, well, no, that's not what you told me. So we make sure it's in emails. We make sure that one of the big things we're doing lately after meetings, sending a follow-up email. Hey guys, this is what we went over. You did mention the budget. I gave you these ranges again. That way they can't go back and play the word of mouth game again and just say, well, you told me this, you told me that, because now you've got a good record of it.
Yeah.
And not that all of them do, but we all know that there's those people out there that, but sometimes it's not intentional. It's a memory thing.
And honestly, I feel like that's the last resort. I only do that if they specifically say, I don't have a budget, then, you know, that's my last option. But I don't like to give ballparks personally, because they can get you in trouble.
Right.
Because our work is so custom. Every single job is different. Every single pavilion is different. Every single paver patio is different. Every pool has different features and options. And so it's very hard to give a ballpark on something that is so customized when I haven't even designed it yet, you know? So sometimes I've gotten in trouble where I'm like, hey, your pavilion's going to be like 30,000 and it comes in at like 40. And then they're kind of like, whoa, what happened? And so I really don't want to give ballparks at all. But
we try our best not to.
You know,
I avoid it as much as I can. It's something that I cringe when I hear, what do you think it could be? And I'm like, no, sorry, we'll work through it and I'll get you some numbers. And they ask a couple times, it's like,
because our formulas and our estimating is very black and white, you know, materials to do the job, labor to do the job, our overhead and our profit. So I feel like I do not have quantities of materials. I don't have quantities of labor until after it's designed, and I can take off the lineal footage, the square footage, the tons of aggregate, all that kind of stuff. Like I can estimate in my head, but I don't know for sure until I do the math. So it's hard sometimes when people ask you those questions.
I love the website idea, and I like, you know, you guys have really thought through that pre-qualification process. So do you charge for the initial consultation?
We charge, right now we charge $80. I think we're going to up it to $100 next year. And every year we choose a charity. We take all that money that they gave us in consultation fees and we donate it to a charity at the end of the year.
So then it's not technically a fee, I guess you would say. That's a really good pre-qualifier for us. We're not charging you for my time. I'm actually donating you my time, but my time is, you're paying for my donated time to a charity. If you're not willing to donate to a charity, you're really not wanting me to come out for my work.
That's really cool. Where did that idea come from?
It came from another contractor in our group, actually.
Yeah, because we kept feeling weird. Like people are so back and forth about paying for a consult. So it's like, how do I get in the middle?
Yeah.
Right. And then someone in the group was like, well, you know, donate it. You know, I think that would be a good idea. We're like, we could. That'd be great. We could. Yeah. You're not paying me for my time. I'm giving you my time as a donation, but you're going to donate the money to a charity.
And I'll tell you what, that if you're going to do one thing in your business as a hardscaper, I would say do that. And you may be scared about, you know, leads getting scared off by that initial fee or whatever. But to be honest, those are not the clients that you want. If they're scared about an $80 consult fee, imagine how they're going to be about a change order that comes up on the job, you know, like. Or
an unforeseen that happens, you know.
Yeah, they are not what you want. So just, it's a blessing for everybody if they decide to walk away because you have a consult fee. So
and the second side of that is if they're just looking for everybody that's trying to do free consultations, and then you're definitely not looking to pay for your designs. And if they're looking for free designs, free estimates, they're not looking for a quality product. Not that there's not guys out there that don't do it free, but there's a point in time where everyone, because we did them free up until a couple of years ago, but there's a point in time where you get to a point where you're just burning money, not charging. And if you're not charging yet, you should absolutely be charging, because all you're doing is you're not just hurting yourself, you're hurting the industry by not charging for your designs and not charging for your consults. It's not helping anybody in any form. And you're getting some clients and some customers, sure, but you could be elevating yourself to another level just by doing that, just by putting yourself in those brackets.
Yeah, like think about it, like an attorney calls you on the phone for 30 minutes and then he bills you for his 30 minutes. So why can't we bill for our time? We are so slammed and so busy, and we have we're more than just coming to your house and putzing around and taking measurements. We have a vision that we will share with you while we're there. And we will tell you what we think you should do with this space, or how we could transform this over here, or you have a problem with drainage over here. How can we fix that and incorporate it into our design? And giving people those pieces and those tidbits and adding value during your meeting is worth money. So I feel like if they're not willing to see that, and I feel like that plays on the brand too, because if you're not pushing your brand, then maybe they won't understand why there's a fee. Right. But if you are pushing your brand and being consistent and putting that's the vibe out there, then you can charge whatever you want for your consult fees.
Yeah, I mean, if your work is valuable, why devalue yourself by not charging for it? I think it's the most plain and way to go. I mean, if you do 30 designs a year and you even just charge $1,000 a year, it's $30,000 to put back towards your company, give towards your employees. I mean, even if you just want to give it back in gifts towards your customers, there's so many things you can do with that in so many different ways.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like you got to believe in yourself, else no one else is going to believe in you. So believe in your value, believe in your ethics, your morals, your mission, what you're standing for, and why you're doing this, and then people will pay for that.
Absolutely.
The most unique thing I've heard in terms of that consult fee, you do a lot of custom work and big projects. What do your payments plans look like? Do they vary from project to project? Do you try to get a certain amount up front to get scheduled? What do these payment plans look like?
That's definitely it's all over the board a little bit, but there is two parts to that, and I'll let her take them. But we always get a placeholder. You're holding someone else's place if you don't put a deposit, so without that deposit, and there's circumstances the deposit can be given back, but if you're shifting schedule by pulling out, there's no skin in the game if you don't put something in there. So that's a must.
So as far as the draw schedule, I won't get into actual percentages, but basically I have a structure where if there's a pool involved, there's a different draw schedule. If there's no pool involved, there's, the base draw schedule. And the reason for that is because when you do pools, there's higher prices. You got to pay for things up front when they're delivered, things like that, versus some of the hardscaping stuff you can kind of pay for later, whatever.
Like when a pool is delivered, you got to pay for the pool you got to pay for all the pool up to, at delivery time. You got to make sure everything is taken care of at that point. So the day of delivery, there needs to be a payment for it. We don't want to be there. We don't want to be somebody else's bank.
That's it. So that's the main thing we want to talk about too, is coming from commercial construction too, I feel like the old draw methodology was, okay, you're going to pay me 50% and then I'm going to do the work, and then you're going to pay me for the work that I did in the past. And that's not what we want to do. You're going to pay for the work that we're going to do in the future. So you're going to give a deposit, and then we're going to order the materials, which took a lot of that deposit money, and have them ready to go. We're going to start the job. You're going to pay another payment the first day on the job, which is going to account for the first part of the project. So you are paying in the future for services that you will be getting. Just like if you go to the store, you buy a t-shirt, you give them your money first before you get to keep the shirt. Yeah. So that's our whole mindset of the draw schedule. So that if we get to the end and say we have a bad client who wants to ghost us or skip out or whatever, then we're not leaving so much on the table. And that's so important for contractors. When you do a good job and you're delivering a good service and you have integrity,
to do the right
then
thing. And,
they should trust you that you're going to do the job the way you say you are. And if they feel uncomfortable about your draw schedule, that's a red flag.
When we chased the dollar, there was a point in time where I was floating almost all the money until the end. And we got to a point where there was even another contractor that even said something like, when you build a house, you don't get the keys to the house till you pay the final payment. So the product isn't yours until it's paid for. And I was like, well, that makes all the sense in the world. So why am I putting all my money into something to hope that you're going to reimburse me for it, when you should just be paying for exactly what you want? You're paying for, it's like I said before, it's not a necessity. You're asking for a luxury item. So you pay me to build a luxury item for you. I'm doing what's comfortable for you. I'm not making it out of the comfort zone. I'm not putting it to where I'm just going to have the ability to just take your money and go away. Products are delivered as I get a payment. Products are delivered. Materials are there. We're working.
And I think the biggest, when we realized this is when we built a house. So we built and designed this house where we're sitting. And the day that they were going to do the punch list and hand over the house, I had to have the payment to them like 2 days prior to that. So we literally couldn't even step foot on the property, come in the house until 100% of the balance was paid. And so then we started to think like, this is interesting because they're leaving nothing on the table. You know, they did the labor and material and their markup, and they got paid for that. And then they hand over the product that we bought. So I feel like that was was eye-opening to us. And that's really when we revise our contract, revise our draw schedules, and really started to get smart.
Big thing for us is the only number that I think is really comfortable to throw out there is our goal is to never leave more than 2% before pavers are laid. We want to be paid 98% up front before pavers are put on the ground or before one of the final products.
It's a little iffy, but 2% at the end at least.
Yeah, 2% is like the goal max. That way, if you got a customer that's just trying to be a complete pain, nitpicking about a product that you have no control of, or a countertop is delayed all of a sudden and you can't get the countertop installed, you don't have thousands and thousands of dollars on the table. You're able to sit back $1,500, $2,000. You know, it's not as big of a deal with 2% on the table as it is when you're sitting with a 15% or 25% draw waiting to finish out, and you got to move on for weeks or even months because of delayed materials. There's so many things out of our control. The goal is to keep everything that's reasonable. Hey, they're sitting with a couple $1,000s. They know you're coming back, right? You know, that makes them comfortable. They're not in a bad spot. They're not completely empty-handed waiting for you to come back. So the goal is to not make them uncomfortable, but at the same time, not put yourself in a pinch. You got to stay fluid in a business, in my opinion. You have to be as liquid as possible.
Yeah, I think when we were doing a lot of granite countertops on our kitchens and stuff outside, and our granite guys started to get very busy and very delayed. And at that time, our draw schedules were bad. Like we would leave like 20,000 at the end, something crazy. And so we're literally sitting and wait. The job is 100% done except for the granite countertops. And we're sitting and waiting weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks for $20,000 payment. We are like that 20,000. We already paid our guys. We already paid all the materials. And so it was a pain in the butt to try on waiting on little, components like that.
That's
so
where the bank comes from, because when you're doing that and it's recycling, and because back then we were turning over, $20,000 to $80,000 jobs twice a week. And when you're waiting weeks, you become literally a bank, or your vendors are holding, you're not getting them all their money. Somewhere it's got to come from, right? You got to get the next job to the next job to the next job. And it really starts becoming a pain. Yeah. So that was the stress. And then the eye opener was like some of the people, and then this house, that was some of the stuff. But I think it's important to have your draw schedule right. I think a small holder till you get started, and then a big chunk in the beginning, and then have whether it's a large chunk and a couple of small chunks, or a well divided up couple of chunks to get to, like I say paver, but whatever the product is that you're laying at that point. Like paver goes down, and then it's edging, landscape, poly, the final steps. But those usually take, a week, couple of days. So to get most of your money to that point, so that you're not stressed and stretching yourself at the end.
And it's probably more of a business and process base, but we just found like a good rhythm of like splitting up payments, based on progress. And we found where those progress points lied throughout the construction process. And then that's kind of where we defined, okay, we're going to have a draw at this point. And then, this point will likely be 3 to 4 weeks after that, we're going to have another draw at this point, and then like that. So I think it's kind of, when you're super custom, those things can change, but that, per company, depending where you're at in your career and what kind of jobs you're doing, those points will be different for everyone.
2% of a $200,000 job is much different than 2% of a $20,000 job. So you may be 10% on a $20,000 job. I guess the 2% is it.
Yeah, this is when you're getting into like $200,000, $300,000 projects.
It's in perspective. You just got to put it in perspective and think about the job you're on. And I like to say $500 to $1,000 is a comfortable cushion, no matter what size the job is, to leave at the end of the job.
Gotcha.
I would say.
Yeah, he likes it real low, but we don't always go that low.
Well, yeah, on a $200,000 job, $1,000 isn't really comfortable for some customers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you're looking at $100,000 and below. $500, $1,000 at the end should be good for everybody, because most of the time the biggest holdup is like countertops, poly sand, or just some random product. Your major portions of the project should be complete if you're walking away to
like painting or staining is sometimes left to
if you're getting rain,
landscaping, maybe if it's raining a lot,
or this time of year you finish, you can't poly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of little things. You don't want to sit for 3 months with $20,000 on the table because of poly sand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's happened before.
It has happened before.
So having said that, and a few things came up there, do you have a horror story that you would want to share in your business, whether, just starting out to where you are right now? It really helps the audience, put safeguards in place in their business, learn from other people's mistakes. It really helps. Anything you would want to share?
We have one, I would say we've had a lot of great success in the business, and we've never been to a point where we've never been paid for a project. We recently kind of went out of our way, seen it coming, really noticed it coming, reached out to our masterminds group and was like, what would everybody do in this position?
Mm-hmm.
To the benefit of the group, there had been other guys in that position, and they're like,
so it was the last payment, like they had paid everything up until the last payment.
They had paid everything up to the last payment. There was a change order. They paid the change order, but wouldn't sign the change order. That's when it started being like, well, what's going on here? I paid you for it. It's fine. We'll take care of it in the end. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, if you're not signing the...
Don't get into specifics.
Right. So anyways, like there was a shining light. Okay, something's off, because obviously we get to the end, anything can happen, right? So you could be paying forward. There could be just so many different ways to manipulate and to twist that. And they're like, look, the only thing you can really do is 1, walk away, or 2, which everybody agreed, finish the job, do the best you can, even go over them above. That way they can't say you walked away. They can't use your leading as a reason. And I think more than anything, we all believe that he made it super transparent to try to make us walk away so he could use that as an excuse. So we not only finished the project, as we were getting through the project, we had my pool suppliers out during the install of the pool. We had the equipment people out to inspect the equipment after the equipment was installed. We had reps out for poly sand. The poly rep swept the sand. He watered the sand. Everything
basically
we could do.
Every single rep you could have on the project was all out there, wrote a report, said it was perfect, beautiful, amazing, installed correctly, and they literally have nothing to even argue about or complain about.
He didn't even do irrigation, but repaired some random irrigation, had irrigation guy come out and inspect the irrigation lines, just went over and above to make sure it was done, did some free concrete work, put some things in, over cleaned, just excelled in so many ways, thousands of dollars in actual free stuff, just so that there was they didn't do it, and we still haven't got paid. We have to sue them and put a lien on the property. So if you get in a position where you see it coming, it's easier to walk away because you're not losing money, but there is a chance they can come back and sue you saying that you breached contract, not finishing it. Mm-hmm. Even if they've kind of breached the contract, there's a legal binding there still in a lot of ways. So be careful. That's why it's good to vet. Vetting is huge. There were some signs, but I was eager and overzealous getting guys to work through winter.
There were a lot of red flags. Like after this all happened, we started to go back through the emails and the correspondence, the text messages. And there was a blatant intention to do this from the beginning. Yeah. It's straight out. We were just blinded by just thinking, oh, maybe, it's a one-time thing. Maybe he's just in a bad mood today, or because he would yell and cuss at Kenny sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Like maybe he's just having a bad day, and we just blow it off. And
yeah, we'd have a couple talks like, hey, we don't talk to each other that way. If it's going to be that way, I can pack my stuff up now. I'll give you your money back, and we'll end this. No, I'm sorry. I'm just dealing with this. This is how I have to deal with people in my work. Like, we just don't do things that way. And he apologized, get through, move on. And then it would pop up again. And it's like, all right, we're going to make a stop at this. This is not going to happen anymore. And then he separated himself. And I felt like those were intentional so he could separate himself. So then I had to deal with the wife in the house. So then there was that, I'm not sure what's going on here phase, kind of blinding its way through.
Anyway, the lesson learned was we left too much money at the end. And that's another reason we reflected, like changed all of our draw schedules.
That was the second time changing draw schedule. And then that was a massive go back. And if you guys aren't a part of some kind of group where you can get help with contracts and languages and to be able to grow, I would say find something. The ability to go in and be like, look, we have some holes in our contract. Can you guys just throw some stuff out there? There was probably 50 contracts thrown out within the group. And now there's actually a board in the group where everybody puts their contract up. So you can go in and just kind of be like, okay, let's look when I get extra time.
And having an attorney that can look at it as well. Yeah. You know, we've had our attorney look at our contracts and stuff. So it's good to have someone who's in the business and knows like certain instances of things that have popped up that you can add, you know, at the bottom, like, you know, what happens if the final payment is not paid on time, whatever. And then it's also good to have the legal perspective from the attorney side, and combining those two things into your contract is going to be bulletproof. So
yeah.
And yeah, don't leave it too much at the end, because we realized after the fact that he had a bunch of quotes from other contractors, and he chose us, and we didn't know why, because he told us that we were like the most expensive one. And I think he chose us because we left the most money at the end, and he knew that he wasn't going to pay that. So if he were to deduct that final payment, we were the cheapest ones.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so that's why he chose us, and he was going to do it from the beginning. But whatever, you live and you learn, and it's okay. 20,000, you know, he obviously needed it way more than we did.
The best part about that job too is there's a few, it's not far from us, and there's a lot of people that know him. And we've been some places, and they've been like, we've been at a party. The place is beautiful. You guys did a great job. And we're just like,
yeah, like, oh my God. Friends of friends. And like, oh, I've been there. The pool's amazing.
You guys did a wonderful, just like, thank you. Wish you knew.
Oh my gosh. You just have to keep your mouth shut.
Yeah. Well, guys, thanks for being so transparent with everything we've talked about here. I've got 3 more questions. They are 3 pretty important questions that I want to get to. One being equipment, tools, installation methods, anything that you want to talk about in terms of one of those 3, all of those 3 on a job site that has changed your business, or things you stand by that you want people to know about.
Tools are prime keys. A tool and a machine is as valuable, if not more valuable, than an employee. The right tools, the right machines can take up for 2, 3 employees if done properly. And trailers, honestly, one of the biggest things that we did as a business, and one of the biggest things that I changed too, was an enclosed trailer. Even if it's only one enclosed trailer, to be able to get places, it makes the world of difference, because you're not leaving things to shop, you're not putting things in the yard and constantly picking them back up, you're not going through things getting broken. Everything is there. You're able to stock it, store it. I think that was one of our biggest things. And then just having the right machines, it's everything. We love our right behind, we have the SK 800 now, right? We have the SK 800 ditch witch. It's such a small, nimble machine. It gets around everywhere. I do like my full-size skid steer, but I'm actually thinking about demoing the SK 3000. I'm actually thinking about demoing the SK 3000 because it's full size.
That's me.
That is you, honey. It's a full-size machine, but the guys can stand. Yeah, honey.
That's you.
Yeah. The 1500 and the 3000 do the work of a full-size skid steer. The 3000 does the work of a full-size skid steer. The 1500 is really comparable. But the guys are standing on it, so the visibility, the 360-degree visibility is so much better. You know, you can pools, tight yards. You're less likely to have damages. You're less likely to have issues. You're less likely to have someone being lazy and just sitting in the machine, milking the heater and everything. You know what I mean? So I think that those are some prime tools. If you haven't used them or you don't have them, the Dingos aren't bad, but they're not as good. They don't hold as much. They don't work as well. They're not as.
What about do you like the mini trencher?
The mini trencher, yeah, that's another machine. I don't know if you guys have tried the. It's called a mini trencher. It's basically a partner saw with a trencher blade, a chain blade on it. For gas lines, electric lines, even for seat walls. Sometimes if I'm in a pinch and I just want to get something knocked out and I'm short-handed, I just spray my stuff out, run a couple of lines. I've got an 18-inch deep hole, pop it out, I'm ready to go. I think that's a very valuable tool.
So what about the grippo thing?
Grippo, yeah, see.
The paver.
I use them so often, I don't think twice about it. But
the paver suction thing.
Oh, the vacuum tools.
Well,
yeah,
so,
but with the handheld ones, that's cheaper. Not
so
like the
on
big
Amazon,
machine
there's
one.
one that's like
Gotcha.
$200. It's called a Grabo. It's just electric.
Oh,
battery
right.
powered.
Yes.
That thing is a lifesaver. There's no more chipping pavers trying to use wrenches, and even the little metal one. It's never perfect. That Grabo, you slap that thing on there, you're pulling your stuff out. We even actually have used the Grabos on the side of our 6-foot treads, our natural stone treads, one on each side.
Yeah.
Guys putting a piece of board through it, picking it up, laying it into place rather than trying to manhandle it, getting fingers underneath of it.
Also, what about the new flatbed trailer that goes like on the back?
Oh, tilt trailers. Yeah, tilt trailers are key.
Yeah, Kenny.
I very few contractors out there don't have a tilt trailer, or at least see the value in one. But trailers are trailers. Everybody's got to have a trailer of some sort to get around. But I think the main tools are things that we've got into would be the Grabo, the trencher, and the mini skids are lifesavers and time savers. One mini skid can do the work of 2 guys carrying their materials around the yard really simply. I mean, you lay your boards down, you can drive over your pavers with the 800, 1500, maybe not as much, but you can get right over such your stuff down. You're not turning or twisting, but you're in and out getting your things done. As long as you got proper base, I should say. Don't do it on like a really crappy base, you'll be screwed.
And I think the biggest talking point in this category is organization.
Oh my God.
Tool organization is so important, and I feel like
that stresses me out.
So we've gone through our enclosed trailers and built shelving, and then we recently did all these shelves in the shop and like labeling everything and just trying to be super mindful of keeping things where they need to be, because I feel like the guys, it can get out of hand sometimes.
I deal with it a lot more than her, and it does get out of hand.
Yeah.
That's why this winter I'm spending a lot of time and money on an organization method we're going to get a full across the board allocation and inventory of everything. I don't care what it is, everything's going to be inventory. And we like to keep a good amount, 45, 100, whatever, of specific things like couplers for pools and random stuff across the board. So it's all going to be allocated, and I'm actually going to make somebody at the end of the day responsible for taking every tool out of the truck, putting it on a shelf, putting the batteries up, and then at the beginning of every day, that's going to be part of them taking the time to set up, because part of the process should always be set up and tear down. The guys are super, and it's partially my fault in the process that I should have set when I step out of doing all of the work all the time. They're really quick to just jump in and start working, which is eager and it's great. But without a process set into play and everybody knowing what their deal is for their process is for the day, it can just get chaotic and become a mess. So I think part of my process is somebody's loading the tools in the beginning of the day. The other guys are getting prepared with what everybody else is doing for the day. So that's something I'm going to focus on this winter really hard and really thoroughly, I think.
You mentioned the mastermind group, other people during this episode. Do you have any people right now that you'd want to give a shout out to? People that have helped you along the way, people on Instagram that you look up to, people in your mastermind, whatever it may be, anybody that you want to give a shout out right now?
Oh, that's a long list. We've just got so many in our network. Honestly, all the contractors in our region, Twinscapes, they were great. He's who helped me really grow and become a lot of who I am.
And Zaver Pools, we work with them all the time. And Jack and Carly are amazing. And of course, we need to shout out them because they really brought us into the fold. And we've met so many amazing people through that whole
Elite Pools, that's Dennis Brown out of Findlay, Ohio. He's actually the guy that come to us and opened up the door to pools. He's the one 30 years in the business. Started mentoring us because he liked what we did in outdoor living. And he's like, I really would like someone like you to help take over the region here so I can focus where I'm at. And he's an amazing wealth of knowledge. He really is. It was just a lot of great guys in the area. I just love the community, our whole network, our whole region, Ohio's Finest Land and Snow Warriors, Aaron, Balsarac, all those guys are just great guys. I don't think there's really anybody that I would say isn't good in our network.
It's so cool being in construction because I feel like you have a family.
We really do have a village.
Yeah, it's amazing getting to know all these people and all the families and everyone involved and sharing ideas and helping each other. So
it's even been lately like reaching out, that guy that does the showers and stuff in another country. Like it's starting to come from all over. It's not just becoming in the United States. We got people reaching out from different areas. I love it, man. It's just awesome. Sure. I really do enjoy what we do, and I hope everybody else out there gets to a point where they enjoy it like we do, because we work so much, it needs to not feel like work. Yes, it's stressful. Yes, we all deal with shit. There's never a day that it's not going to. But when you enjoy it, you just kind of let it roll off the shoulder. You don't ever look at it as there's never a problem. There's always a solution. That's kind of how I try to view everything. The guys don't always get it that way, but most of our employees are getting to a point where they start to see it like that now too. And I feel like it's a contagious thing once you really truly believe it.
I just want to say thank you for your time here, guys. I've held you up much longer, but I've got so many questions for you from this conversation that we could go on for hours. So I do have my final question. I want to ask you, what is that one thing that you know now that you wish you knew from the very start when you first started your business?
There's one thing I could say: process. I wish I would have taken my process in the very beginning and really started to document it. Because my brain, I'm so process oriented. I can step onto a job and I already know what I'm doing from start to finish. And when the guys follow me, it just clicks. I mean, we can knock out so much work so fast, it's mind blowing. But when I step away, I realize I didn't put those processes into place. So then I'm stepping back in from 3 steps behind, bringing them back forward, resetting the process. So it's not as efficient as it could have been. And it's really hard to do it once you've stepped away. So I wish I would have done it in the beginning. And if I could say anything, start documenting your process and fine tuning your process, because I've obviously fine tuned it, over all the years. I'm constantly growing, and we're still growing now. I can never learn enough. And there'll never be a point in time where I can say, I've learned it all and this is dead set. Our process will always be evolving. But if you've got it documented, you can look back, see where this isn't as good as that, and you can create another system in its own. So I would say for me, that's the biggest thing I wish I would have done, was document my process.
For me, it's realizing how important design really is. Like, I feel like in the beginning, it's just like, get the job, build the job. The design's kind of like falls by the wayside, whatever. And I feel like I wish I could have told my previous self that the design is the most important part, to be honest.
Yes.
And leading with design is going to excel your company by far more than, kind of using it as just an add-on. Like, you should really focus on it for sure.
I agree, because without proper design, you don't get the construction. I can build anything you can put on paper, or at least give me a vision of. The design does both. It puts the vision on paper. It takes what you see, what a homeowner sees, and it really just develops something that you get to create.
For sure.
Well, Elizabeth, Kenny, thank you so much for your time. Where can our audience find you online? Where can they reach out to you? Anything you want to leave them with?
You guys can find us on Instagram at Vaughanscapes. It has a little dot in between the Vaughn and the Scapes.
Do you mind if we give all of them? Like,
do it. Yep.
Interiors.
Our Instagram for our interior division, it's called EV Interiors. You can find us on Instagram there as well. Facebook, and our website, vaughanscapes.com, EV Interiors.
Don't go to our website yet, though, because
wait, because the new one's gonna be so much better.
It's been almost a year and a half in process. I don't know why it took so long, but now that she's finally getting it wrapped up, it is great.
It'll be done in a couple of weeks. So.
Yeah, right now you look at it and it hasn't been updated in probably,
Yeah, if you guys want to take a little tour down memory lane, you can definitely go check out the website now, because it has some older photos of what we did in the beginning. So that might be interesting to look at.
Yeah, I know it surprises me looking at it. I went one day to one of the homeowners was like, your website doesn't do your company justice.
Their website, your website doesn't reflect what jobs you're doing, is what they told us.
I was like,
we need a new website.
I was like, what's she mean? I went and looked on the website. I was like, oh shit, we haven't updated that thing in years.
Yeah.
Social media is just so easy. It's so convenient. And not only are you updating your website for yourself, but everybody's seeing it all the time, even if they're not looking for it. Mm-hmm. And it's just such an olive branch. It goes in so many directions. It's a great source. If you're not utilizing your social media, you really have to. It's such a free resource that can get you so much income in so many levels.
And back in the day, people used to print out their photos and put them in a book and call it a portfolio. That's what Instagram is for your business. So use Instagram as your digital portfolio and just be consistent and put all your best stuff on there, because that's what people look at. And when you're at jobs, when you're trying to sell a job, when you're talking to a friend whose friend needs a patio, you just pull that up. Mm-hmm. And if you keep up with it, that's gold.
I really don't carry anything on estimates anymore other than an iPad. I have my suppliers send me digital versions of my catalogs. So we go through the digital versions of the catalogs, and then they like this paper. Hey, here's my Instagram. This is where this paper is. It's just such an easy thing to do. So you have to utilize it. You really have to use the resources that are at hand.
It's something I wanted to get into in the interview, but obviously we're running short on time, and I want you guys to come back for a roundtable because social media is something I wanted to get into talking about you too, and also that I believe you have your own videographer or part-time videographer. So
Chris is amazing. Yeah, we should have shouted him out.
Yeah, so Chris, actually, the reason we're filming this too is so that Chris can kind of put it on our YouTube channel and stuff. So we would love to shout him out. He's amazing. And just to kind of touch on the consultation fees and the design, we also charge for designs. A lot of our design fee money is going towards our videographer at this moment in time. So it's kind of a great marketing tool to kind of, charge for money here and spend it here. So he's been awesome, and I feel like he's really going to excel our business.
And our YouTube channel, don't forget to check that out.
Yeah.
It's new.
It's called Vaughn & Co. on YouTube, so check that out.